public Roblox developers are now able to use React DevTools. I think it's a bit of a hacky way at the moment. I think you have to use a really old version of React DevTools, which the only way of installing on my computer is using some binary that someone sent me over Discord. A
little bit risky.
So yeah, someone managed to build it.
I definitely want to play around with this. Maybe I won't download random binaries from people on Discord, but we'll see if for my Windows machine there's a safer option to install that first. Welcome back to Beyond the Blox. This week we're going to dive into the Halloween Spotlight event and a few other quality of life improvements for developers as well. But first, Fedor can't make it today, so it's just the two of us. We're your hosts. I'm Adam.
And I'm Anthony.
So let's start with the Halloween Spotlight, as I think that's the big thing this week. Halloween Spotlight is running from the 23rd of October through to the 3rd of November, featuring exclusive avatar items that players can unlock by collecting runes and keys across 31 different experiences, and then you complete some trials in a cursed forest to get those avatar items. So yeah, a little bit more about the unlocking items. So you complete quests in these different experiences that are being featured as part of this event. So it is kind of like a sort that we sort of speculated on last week. And once you've completed those quests, like I say, you get runes and keys, and those unlock paths in this cursed forest. And those paths are what the cursed compass, which was that kind of compass clock thing I was talking about last week. That's a cursed compass, and it sort of takes you through the different areas that you've unlocked with these runes and keys. So each featured experience has, I think, one quest to unlock a rune, which is kind of an easier quest. And then one to unlock a key, which is usually a harder quest, and that unlocks like these elite paths that are slightly more exclusive than the normal ones. And then, like I say, you have to complete a trial after that. So yeah, this is quite an interesting event. It is very much focused around items, which we have seen in previous Halloweens. Avatar items are usually quite a big thing, because you can decorate your avatar and make you look spooky for the spooky season. And I think it's quite cool here that you get an avatar item. Obviously, it's going to be in your inventory forever. So kind of like badges, but something that you can wear in future Halloweens as well. So that's quite a nice keepsake from the event, rather than just a temporary thing and an experience that gets removed at the end of October. So yeah, I guess, Anthony, have you had a look at this yet? Have you got involved in the Halloween Spotlight at all?
Yeah, I've not really had a chance to give it a go.
It's quite interesting. If you go to the hub, which is this cursed forest, it's quite an interesting experience to sort of walk through.
It's got quite a scary cutscene at the beginning.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, you load into the game, into this hub, and it starts off with this cutscene where you're like running away from some sort of evil spirit, out of a cabin and into the cursed forest. And that's kind of how you end up getting there. So a little bit of context setting when you first join. I think you can turn off the jump scares if you are particularly easy to scare. So it is a bit kid friendly in that sense. But yeah, it's an interesting one. It's just a hub. It lets you get to all these different experiences that you can teleport to.
Yeah, so is it interesting? So is it open to all ages then?
I think it's 5+, yeah, which I was a little bit surprised by, but I think because you can toggle some of the scary stuff off, then it probably makes it suitable. So yeah, anyone 5+, and I don't think under 5s are really playing Roblox and collecting runes and keys, so pretty much everybody. So these different quests that you can do in these different experiences, it's kind of a lot of the experiences out of these 31 are ones that you've heard of before. And this is maybe my one negative with the event, is they're already very, very popular experiences, Dress to Impress, Driving Empire, those kind of ones. So this wasn't open for any developer to apply to. It was just a specific few. And this has also taken over like the today's picks on the homepage. So this is sort of Roblox's spot for curated experiences. Normally each day you get different experiences on that pick, and that's open to anyone. Like anyone can sort of create an event in their experience.
Do you
and it can
apply
get
for
picked
that,
up.
or?
I
I
don't
don't know
think
actually
you
how you
have
get
to
on that
apply for
page.
that. I think you can, but also if you just run an event on your experience, you can just appear in today's picks, I believe. So there's like a curation team at Roblox that normally go through picking those. But for this sort of couple of weeks, that's been kind of bulldozed through, and today's pick is just Halloween Spotlight experiences. So there is a little bit of a loss of discoverability for experiences that aren't in this, which makes sense for the player.
I mean, a lot of games aren't mainstream enough to kind of get on there anyway, which is why I've always kind of ignored it.
Yeah, I think it depends. I think there's if you're open to quite a wide audience, then yeah, you're probably more likely to end up on those picks. But it does provide a way of slightly smaller experiences getting some more eyes on them. So it is a slight loss here. So sort of the experiences that have been selected for this spotlight event, you've got kind of the big headliners. You've got Welcome to Bloxburg, Dress to Impress, those sorts of games. You've got some not so scary games is the category that Roblox have called it. So things like Epic Mini Games, Claw Machine Simulator. You've got a bunch of food related ones. So I think Restaurant Tycoon 3 is in there as well. You've got sort of the classic horror games where you're sort of surviving or running away from something. I think they called those Survive the Frights and Harrowing Escapes for those two categories. There's some sports games, there's some adventure games, and sort of tower defense games as well. So quite a few different genres. But like I say, the games from those genres are ones that you've probably heard of before.
Yeah, and I think it might be worth explaining how, or looking into how the Halloween events have happened in the past, because it's quite different, I think, to previous. And maybe, I don't know, some people might say a bit of a letdown, a bit more kind of low key, kind of more decentralized.
Yeah, I think so. I think previous Halloweens, sometimes there haven't even really been explicit events. It's just been some of Roblox's created avatar items are on sale. Every year we get a few Halloween items from Roblox themselves. And then usually there's been some sort of like curated sort, kind of like the today's picks, but more open where anyone can be part of that. So I think the lanes got featured a little while back for Halloween as well. It might have been that same Halloween where we had that massive outage, so I'm not sure how beneficial it was. But we were on some sort of featured sort there as well because we did a Halloween update. So it was a bit more open and anyone could kind of partake in that. This year does feel a bit more closed down, a bit more secretive. Obviously Roblox must have reached out to these 30-odd experiences in advance and worked with them to put in the logic to make all of these runes and keys happen. So it has been a little bit more centralized through Roblox. And as developers, I don't think we got any kind of invite or application to apply for this. So it was just these very big games that already have a lot of audience, which, yeah, it could be a letdown. I think it's Roblox playing it safe. Is what I think it is. And I think if you consider it from a player's point of view, it does make a lot of sense because the player doesn't care whether it's a brand new experience or whether it's an existing one that has a new update in it. And if anything, they're more likely to take part in the event if it's ones that they have heard of before. I think when we look at it from a developer point of view, maybe it's a little bit sad that if we did our own Halloween event, it wouldn't necessarily get the same discoverability. I think it's quite a nice event from a player perspective.
I remember the Hallows Eve games. I remember sometimes when games have been made specifically for an event, it's been a bit of a flop. So maybe they want to avoid that. But I do remember there being specific games for Halloween maybe many years ago. But I think that's probably been a bigger thing at like Easter with the egg hunts. So I'd love to see a return of that. And a sort of Christmas event. We do a Christmas event on our game, which seems to be a lot bigger than Halloween.
Yeah, I feel like you can stretch it out a bit longer than maybe the Halloween ones can. But yeah, I think Roblox have sort of been focusing more on these types of events where maybe they build a very straightforward hub that they commission some sort of studio to make, but otherwise they've just called upon existing studios to kind of update their games. I think the avatar items is an interesting thing because they have commissioned those from...
what do they look like? What kind of...
There's some
things that they
quite
are
cool
doing this
ones.
year?
If you want to have a look at
Is
all
it
the things that
anything
are
UGC
available,
based?
it's all sort of UGC items for your avatar, and I think they've commissioned people like Kestrel and other sort of UGC studios, if you like, to create a lot of these. So if you do go to the Halloween Spotlight hub, which I think is just called Halloween Spotlight, you can look through all of the badges that are on that game.
Okay.
And those badges essentially are the different items that you can collect. So there's sort of various different types of items. There's ones that can go on your head, ones that can go on your shoulders, just all the sort of accessories that you'd expect in the UGC catalogue. There's some hair, there's some wings, all those sorts of things. And there's like normal versions of all of these. So you've got like a broom, a cauldron, wings, etc. Some floating lanterns. But then there's also like cursed versions, and so you can spend Robux to curse the items that you've got, and essentially
Who's receiving this?
well, I think I don't know. I think it's just going to Roblox because you're doing this in the hub. So it's Roblox's owned event. So it's not the experiences that are taking part in it. I don't know if they're getting any rewards from this other than just exposure and more players. But
that's interesting. I've not seen Roblox itself charging Robux.
I think they have in some events, and obviously there's Roblox owned UGC that that exist in the catalog. So it's not completely out of the ordinary, but it is a little bit interesting that they're charging Robux to curse the items. And essentially it's kind of just a retextured version of the same item. So where you've got, for example, I don't know, the corrupted cauldron, for example, there's then like an infested cauldron that is like a slightly different texture, looks a bit cooler, but otherwise is pretty much the same item. Like you can tell they're variants of the same item. So I think if you pay as much as 1,000 Robux, you can curse all of the base items in one go, using something called the Codex in this cursed forest, which is quite expensive maybe, but there are quite a lot of items here. I think I counted and there was around 20 odd items that you can unlock. So yeah, you can curse all of those at once if you want to pay, or you can pay, I think, to do individual items if there's just one that you particularly want. So yeah, look through the badges on the Halloween Spotlight and you'll see sort of all the different options that are there. There's also kind of like pets as well, which I think are still just avatar items, but they're sort of themed around. There's like an owl-looking one and like some sort of, I don't know, weird marsupial-looking thing that's all skeleton vibes and some snakes and various other bits and pieces that you can unlock as well. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it on the items.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about the quests to get the runes and the keys. So like I say, runes for normal paths, keys for elite paths. So each of these games that you can teleport to from the hub and do these quests in will have one for each of those, one rune, one key that you can get. So some of these are easier than others. Runes are generally easier than the keys, but even just between the experiences, some of them require a bit of skill, some I don't think require very much skill. So Driving Empire is one that I played and had a go with. The easier quest to get the rune is just knock over 150 zombies as you're driving around the map, and the slightly harder quest for the key is knock over 300 zombies, so you just have to do twice as many. So they're not so much...
They've got zombies all over the map for everyone.
Yeah, they're just sort of spawning all over the place, and it really just takes time. It's not really skill so much as if you just drive around, you will drive into zombies. They do just appear, and we'll show some footage of that for the video audience as well. But yeah, it'll just take you twice as long to knock over 300 basically. And that's it. It's an interesting kind of concept because once you've done those quests, you're almost incentivized to leave the game and go back to the hub and go to a different one. So I'm interested to see what this kind of does to the metrics for these games. But I imagine the developers have kind of designed these quests such that you spend a decent amount of time in these games, so that you get quite a high play time. I think in Doors, which is maybe a more classic kind of game for this sort of event, you have to like knock on 50 different doors for the simple quest and reach room 50 in the Trick or Treat event for the slightly harder quest. So yeah, like I say, 31 experiences. I don't think you have to do all of them as well. This is the nice thing. So within each area, I think you only need a rune or a key to unlock the particular path to do the trial. So if there's a particular experience that you don't like the quests in or don't want to do, you could just do a different one. But I think there is a grand prize if you do 27 runes and 27 keys, so nearly all of the experiences. I'm not quite sure what the grand prize is. It's a little bit mysterious. But yeah, you have to do quite a lot to get the grand prize. And that's it, really. It's a fairly straightforward event. Obviously, it needs to be straightforward for people to understand. But it is quite fun going through all these different teleports and collecting these runes and stuff. I can see why they designed it this way. The one thing that I think is missing, unless it maybe is the grand prize or one of these items, but I've not seen it, is in the teasers, we did see like quite a cool ram's head that I commented on last time. That was like, it looked very high quality, like 4K textured sort of thing. And I've not seen that in any of the items that you can unlock. I do wonder if maybe that's the grand prize or if they literally just put that in for the teaser video, which is a shame because it looked quite cool. So I do wonder if that might be the grand prize. But maybe there's something more exciting than just another avatar item if you do collect all these runes. So maybe I'll spend the rest of the day trying to get those 27 runes and 27 keys.
So that's all we have to talk about the Halloween Spotlight. But last week we spoke about what was the first Guinness World Record that Roblox broke. So did you have any ideas, Adam?
No, I think when we talked about this last time, there was a couple of different things we talked about. I think we settled on that it was probably to do with users and just how many there were on the platform, because that seemed like something that Roblox was breaking records on. But I think the tricky bit with this question was their first Guinness World Record, and also, some records that they've broken might not be Guinness World Records. So I didn't have a solid idea on this one. I don't know if anyone else did.
Yeah, I think it's kind of gone over our heads a bit. I think it's when you read it, it's kind of obvious. Well, the answer is, and again, you might think it's kind of obvious, the most user-generated games and 3D experience on a video game making platform. And that was in November 2017.
Yeah. No, that does make a lot of sense. I feel like it's kind of a cop-out because, like, of course, well, not a cop-out, but, like, obviously it's Roblox. Like, there aren't any other platforms quite like this. But nice, that's interesting. Do we know how many it was? Did it say that on the record? I'll just Google it quickly, and it looks like 29 million. Yeah, that's insane. That is quite a lot of games and experiences. We actually talked about this a little while ago when we talked about all those experiences being hidden for being unrated. I again wonder how many of these 29 million are just like starter places that someone hasn't actually put any effort into versus, someone's actually spent time creating it as a proper game or experience. But yeah, I think this makes sense when you say it. When did you say that they won this one?
2017, November.
2017. Wow. Fair enough. Like I say, that's probably Roblox breaking their own record if they did renew this one, because no other platform has swooped in and got that many user-generated experiences since then.
Okay, well, this episode, the question is, which Halloween exclusive bundle did Roblox accidentally put on sale for free in 2023?
I do know this one. Yeah.
I remember this, but I can't remember what item it was.
Okay. Okay. I feel like if you've been around Roblox for a little while, there's an exclusive bundle.
Quite a pricey one.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. So I think this was a big oopsie by Roblox putting it on sale for free. If I remember correctly,
does it go off sale?
It goes off sale
seasonally. Because I remember looking at it today and it was on sale, and I can't remember if it comes on sale around Halloween. Yeah,
it does. And so I think as part of that putting it on sale, they accidentally did it for free. If I remember correctly, they refunded everyone for it. Well, not refunded, but took it back from everyone who got it for free. So yeah, if you think you know what this one is, definitely comment it on this video or this episode on Spotify, and then we'll reveal the answer next week with a bit more info about that as well. Perfect. On to our next topic for today's episode, and we're talking about a nice developer quality of life feature that is default properties in Studio. Now, I think we've been asking for this for a very long time. Even if not, I think developers will appreciate this massively. But what you can now do is set custom default properties for any object that you would insert into Studio. So when developers are creating games and they're inserting parts or inserting other types of instances into the world, into their experience, they can now set custom default properties for this. And so you can change a property and set that as the default, or you can reset it back to the original Studio defaults as well if you want to go back to what it was. So yeah, this is absolutely huge. I think I'm very excited for this. I think the scenery developers out there will be quite excited for this, because I know the classic setup is they've built a whole thing with brand new parts and forgot to go and tick the anchored box on all of them, go to play the game, everything falls out the sky. It is just a classic that I think every developer has experienced if you've ever touched scenery or the 3D world. So I think that's
default
probably
collision groups.
Default collision groups, exactly. Collisions are another one. I think anchored and the collidability of objects are two of the biggest things that developers probably have to go in and change every single time they insert something. So this is going to speed things up massively and hopefully prevent those kind of awkward playtests where suddenly everything falls out the sky. But I can imagine this would be useful for other things as well. It's not just parts. It's not just physical objects. If you imagine screen GUIs and billboard GUIs, you can set up defaults for those as well. Proximity prompts, if you have like a nice custom activation distance that you want all of your proximity prompts to be, and some custom settings, you could just have that pre-set up rather than having to go and change it every single time.
Mesh settings as well.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
the LOD on meshes.
I think that's going to be a big one.
Yeah. I don't know if that's something you can set in the default, because it's something that it uploads a whole new mesh whenever you change the LOD.
That's a good question.
But
so I had a look at this, and I think it's only when you do it via insert object or insert part, like those two, you can right click and sort of insert object, or you can do it through the ribbon menu. And I think it's only those two flows where these defaults apply. So I'm not sure if it'll apply to meshes and other things that you kind of import. You can imagine decals as well, kind of if you're importing images. I'm not sure if it works for those. I kind of need to test that out and see. It definitely works for if you right click and just insert something.
Okay, and the next quality of life feature that Roblox have introduced is WebSocket support. So this is a new addition to the existing HTTP service, which basically adds a new two-way channel. So now Roblox Studio can now talk to an external server in a persistent stream of two-way communication. Previously, we've been limited to one-off requests from Studio or a Roblox game server to an external server. So then persistent communication would be quite inefficient. And if you want to listen to something happening, you have to constantly poll or ask your external server for that thing. So this really opens up the door to a huge amount of possibilities in terms of tooling and allowing developers to make better tools.
That does sound very, very helpful. Yeah, I've done quite a bit of web development in the past, sometimes for things in games, sometimes in Studio. And I know that some of the quite popular plugins, like Roho and other things, sort of use HTTP service. And as you say, they've sort of had to constantly ping off requests from Studio to ask, has anything changed? And then it replies back, no, nothing's changed. Has anything changed now? No, nothing's changed. And that seems quite inefficient. So this does feel like a nice solution to that. I'm quite excited to see how people, improve those external tools to make use of this.
Yeah, so I think the number one thing that people are really excited about for WebSockets is React DevTools. So if you're not familiar, React is this massive framework that's huge on the web for creating user interfaces. So websites like Instagram, Facebook, I think even apps like Snapchat, a lot of them are made with a library called React. And it's kind of a slightly different way of thinking about making UI compared to sort of the default way of doing it in Roblox. And there's a port of it to Lua, So a lot of Roblox developers are now using this, but it can be a bit tricky to debug, um, especially because it's a port and there are tools available on the web that Roblox developers historically haven't been able to use. And one of the reasons for that is because we've not been able to do persistent two-way communication channels. So now that WebSockets have released, basically public Roblox developers are now able to use React DevTools. I think it's a bit of a hacky way at the moment. I think you have to use a really old version of React DevTools, which the only way of installing on my computer, because my processor is newer than this version of DevTools. So the only way of installing it is using some binary that someone sent me over Discord.
A little bit risky.
So yeah, someone managed to build it for M
Yeah.
series Max on Discord. I don't know how.
Yeah, that's
it's a
quite
little bit hacky.
exciting. I have used React DevTools on the web because I have made websites with this as well. And I guess a little bit more context about React. I'm pretty sure Facebook own it, and they maintain it and sort of built it to make Facebook and Instagram nicer to work with, and then have obviously open sourced it. And typically, as you say, it's normally on TypeScript or JavaScript, and so that port over to Lua was quite a big thing to let us use it. And I think also there's React Native, so you said about apps as well.
Yeah.
They've kind of almost just used it as a translation layer of just, if you know React and know how to make UIs in there, there's stuff under the hood where TypeScript turns that into JavaScript and HTML. React Native turns that into Android code and iOS code, and the Lua port turns that into Roblox UI elements, which is very, very exciting. But yeah, I've used DevTools on the browser, which I think was just like a Chrome extension that I installed. So it'll be really cool to see if Roblox end up embedding this into Studio as just like a first party thing, or at least if this is a plugin that you could install and maybe run sort of some separate software on your computer, a little bit like we do with Roho.
The way it works is you have to have like the official React DevTools, but as an app, not as a Chrome extension. So a lot of people use it as a Chrome extension, but yeah, there is an actual app, but you do have to use a really old version because the port of React to Lua is React 17, which I think is a few years out of date now.
Yeah.
So it is a bit hacky. You have to use also a new version of React, React Lua, which Roblox have just released, but it's not on package managers. But it's quite interesting because this is one of the things that Roblox have actually been doing internally for a while, because they've had WebSocket support internally. And Roblox actually builds all of its UIs using React Lua. So the Roblox app itself it's basically a Roblox experience. It's using the Roblox rendering engine of screen GUIs and frames and stuff. And it's all built using React Lua. It's one of their ways of trying to make sure that the Roblox UI ecosystem and the Lua ecosystem works for everyone, because if it works for them, then they're going to improve it. If they have problems with it, they're going to fix those problems, and then everyone else can have those fixed solutions.
It's a smart strategy. It definitely means that they're doing a lot more updates to UI recently than they have before. I think a lot of the UI layouts and things came from them trying to use it internally. It does feel like they've kind of chosen the hard option, right? Because like using React Native and using React for Web would be easier, but would leave their own UI system behind. So it's quite nice they've been using that. So they've been using WebSockets internally and using React DevTools internally to test their own things. But the change here is it's now something that might be accessible to developers as well. Yeah, that sounds good. Nice. I think that's a really nice quality of life improvement. I definitely want to play around with this. Maybe I won't download random binaries from people on Discord, but we'll see if for my Windows machine there's a safer option to install that first. But I think if robots are using it internally, it may well be that we see them updating and either going to a later React version and porting it again, or maybe even updating DevTools. Maybe even making a Roblox branded React DevTools. Who knows?
I think there is a project to add. I think they're either adding the missing features to React DevTools, or they're adding the missing features to the port of React itself. So they have got a team working on this at Roblox, just literally just working on making React better, which is quite interesting. So that will hopefully come at some point, and the support will be easier to use. It will be on package managers, but at the moment it's technically possible, but kind of hard.
Fantastic, great news.
Okay, and I think the last topic we have today is the fact that the Roblox Cloud API has expanded to allow you to automate the uploading of models, animations, and Roblox formatted meshes. So this is a pretty big change. A few years ago, we had the announcement of the Roblox Cloud API. I think that's what it's called.
I think Open Cloud, isn't it?
Open Cloud API, yes, the Open Cloud API. So basically, previously, what you had to do is if you wanted to automate any sort of Roblox thing, like uploading a place, uploading a model, you had to create a bot account and then use I don't know how much we're allowed to talk about such things, but use the Roblox security cookie and essentially kind of lie to the to Roblox saying that you're a user logging in. And over the years they've added more security, so they've added two-factor authentication, and they've also added a cookie security kind of thing, which I'm not entirely sure how it works, but it basically stops someone from just copying your cookie and then using that to access your account.
Yeah, because presumably
sort of
with
a
that
common
cookie,
phishing scam.
You can do anything, right? You can be transferring a Robux to someone else. You could be changing the password. You could do all sorts of stuff.
You can't change the password, but you can do pretty much everything else.
Not recommended.
So what we had to do is, because for our game Croydon, we have a lot of vehicles that players can use, and there are so many vehicles that if we just had them all in the place, it would just instantly crash. Like we wouldn't even be able to open the file. So we have to upload them all as models, but there are more than 500. I'm not doing that manually. So we had to have a bot account because Open Cloud API was a thing, but all you could do is upload images, and you could upload a single mesh, which is not massively useful.
Right, because you need like a whole model with like multiple meshes, constraints.
Exactly.
I see.
Yeah, so you can now upload a whole model through the Open Cloud API, which means that we can finally get rid of this massive security risk and massive faff, because this is just like, it's such a pain to get working, because it's not really something you're supposed to be doing. It's sort of like it's kind of a bit of a hack. So that is going to be really, really handy for developers creating tools and just automating their workflows. I know a lot of people have sort of GitHub automations where these are people who work in fully managed Roho. So it's quite an advanced development technique, but you can basically build your Roblox place file and upload it sort of from the cloud remotely. And most developers don't do this. But
we're sort of half moving towards it on the lanes where like we're managing certain parts of the place through Roho, and the ability to at least deploy scripts is something that came out to Open Cloud a little bit earlier as well, and being able to do that without having to open the place and manually save things is really helpful. So seeing this extend to more types of assets definitely feels like
just Roblox are really they're adding features which help make those streamlined development processes easier to do. So it's more efficient workflows.
Yeah, definitely. And through the Open Cloud, you say the security is better. There's like OAuth sort of API keys, all of these kind of things that come with
a proper security rather than some very sketchy practices which were not really recommended.
Exactly. And these APIs are scoped as well, right? Like if you create an API key for your GitHub to publish your models, it can't also go and transfer all your Robux or change your group owner or whatever. Like it's scoped to just look at that one particular thing. So yeah, it definitely feels like Roblox are pushing hard to move, I think, almost every action on the platform to have an Open Cloud equivalent to sort of facilitate that and completely negate the need to ever have to throw around cookies and sort of pretend to log in as bots on random servers and all that sort of stuff.
Well, that's all that we've got for you this week. Come back next episode for the latest Roblox news and features. Be sure to like, share, and let us know your thoughts in the comments, along with the answer to the trivia question: which was, which Halloween exclusive bundle did Roblox accidentally put on sale for free in 2023?
Absolutely, and Beyond the Blocks is produced by Seb Jensen for Last Level Studios. Watch on YouTube and Spotify, or listen wherever you get your podcasts. Catch highlights every week on TikTok, Reels, and Shorts, and visit lastlevel.co.uk/podcast for more info.